it gives me great pleasure to introduce a real leader. A real leader in all aspects of life. About his accomplishments, you'll hear directly from Mr. Dan Reich. I can't list all the companies that he started, but he started a lot of companies, and he probably started today a few companies, I suspect. So I'm not fully up to date. Dan started a lot of companies, sold some companies. Brilliant, great man, and a great leader. I know Dan won't be upset. The fact that he built companies and sold companies and was very successful is not impressive to me and is not a big deal for me. What's impressive for me, that Dan is a leader for our people, for Israel. He makes a difference in other people's lives. There are a lot of people that accomplish a lot in their business, but they forget where they came from and they forget their real responsibility. Dan never forgot. I'm really proud of all the work he's done with Israel, fighting anti-Semitism, supporting Israel in so many different ways. So on top of all of his business accomplishments, he's a great Jewish leader, and he's a good friend of myself and Rabbi Greenberg, and he's a good friend of Chabad, and we love having him here in Shul. We're trying to get him here a little bit more often, but I tell him to come. He says he's traveling. It's not an excuse not to be in Shul. The fact that you're out of town, you still have to be here. Dan, thank you for all that you do. We're looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you for making the time today for our future leaders.
All right. Just curious, quick show of hands. Who here wants to be an entrepreneur? 1, 2, 3, 4. What about doctor? Lawyer? What am I missing? Call it out. That's it, no?
Indian chief.
Indian chief? Okay. Finance. Cool. So we're going to talk about character. Some of you have seen some version of this last year, but we're going to jump in. So character. When I think about character, to me, there's kind of 4 attributes that I think about: ethics, courage, perseverance, and perspective. So I'm going to tell you my story, and I think it'll navigate some of these things. And at the end, we could tee it up for questions. So character, that's a Lego of me, I guess. For me, my story starts in high school. I started many companies, as both rabbis alluded to. The first company I started was buying bouncy balls off of eBay wholesale and selling them to my friends in high school out of my locker. And it got to the point where I created so much chaos, I got suspended because the hallways looked like this. Bouncy balls were flying everywhere. People were getting hurt. And so my friend saw this and said, "Hey, Dan, you know the internet. My dad knows the guy at the Jersey Shore. We should go meet him because he has a clothing company. And we can maybe work with him. And you know the internet. Maybe you can sell clothing online." And so we did that. I went to a warehouse. This is not a photo, but it kind of looked like this. And they had on the tables apple bottom jeans, Rockaware, Sean John, all urban clothing. And I went into business with this guy and started a company called The Fashion Passion. This is a broken version of the website. I couldn't find the real one. But we would sell clothing wholesale to all over the world. We would ship literally all over the world. I'd get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'd turn on Yahoo ads, Google ads. I would go to school and I'd have a customer support and service rep kind of take orders and process credit cards throughout the day. And by customer service rep, I mean my mom, out of my sister's room. And we did this for a year or 2. Turns out, though, that the partner that I partnered with, 6 months later, my dad came home and shared a local newspaper with me. And in short, that partner was photographed getting arrested by the FBI for stealing all that clothing off the back of trucks and using his partner, aka me, to kind of fraudulently sell it online. So that was my first real lesson in business on people. And the most important lesson for me in life is really this: it's people. You have to really pick wisely. This is true in your professional life, in your personal life, but that was a really, really hard lesson learned, and I was fortunate to learn it early. And it comes down to ethics. Like, this person clearly did not have ethics. He was stealing stuff and using me as the front man to kind of make it happen. And when you think about a company, it's really just a collection of people. And so, again, if you're not optimizing for working with great ethical people, you might kind of leave room for disaster. And as a comparison, early on in high school, I joined as a volunteer of who goes skiing or snowboarding. So I'm in the white helmet, volunteered as a member of National Ski Patrol, been doing it for like 20 years. When you compare and contrast that experience of people that care and want to help other people versus people that steal, it becomes very clear what ethics looks like. And I was pretty fortunate to learn that early on. So let's fast forward. I ended up going to college at the University of Wisconsin, which is the best place on earth. Lily can attest to it. And I get there my freshman year, and this is the conversation that we're all having. What are you going to study? What are you going to be when you grow up? What will you do? And everybody literally that I had met, all my friends, all said finance. They all wanted to be rich. They thought getting jobs in Wall Street would be their ticket to being rich. And I asked why. And again, they all wanted to be rich. And my friend who became my college roommate said, obviously finance, because the world revolves around money. And I thought, actually, it doesn't. The world doesn't revolve around money. It revolves around technology. But at that point in my life, I thought I wanted to go to medical school and be a doctor. My parents, Jewish parents, you're either going to be a doctor or a lawyer. And funny enough, my brother is a lawyer. My sister is a family nurse practitioner. My cousin's a doctor. My other cousin's a lawyer. My other cousin's an accountant. And I'm like the black sheep in the family. But I thought I wanted to go to medical school. And so I had this plan to study biomedical engineering, plus ski patrol would be a nice, pretty package to apply to medical school. But then I quickly learned I hated the biology and chemistry. I liked engineering, and I hated school. So I switched things up and decided to study electrical and computer engineering. This is a picture of us doing research in a photonics lab making silicon wafers, like all the Intel bunny suits. And that was, for me, another lesson in leadership, character, and more importantly, courage. It was a time when I had all this social peer pressure from my family, my friends, to go do the thing that everyone expected me to do, go to medical school, get the good job. But instead, I decided I needed to follow my own curiosity, my own passion, at the risk of, my parents not being super happy about it, and despite what was right. So I said no to medical school to my parents. And for me, even to this day, it's a great reminder that it's really important to stay energized and follow your curiosity and whatever gives you excitement and engagement. I think, like most people, many people in life optimize for success, and many of those people are unhappy, but people that optimize for happiness and engagement and curiosity end up being wildly successful because they care and they love the energy that they're following. So moving on, my next real business, and this is another college story. I was in a frat called SAE. We had a big Halloween party, and we ended up incurring $94,000 in fines and got kicked off campus, which was sad for me as a college kid because now I had no place to go party in school. And so what did I do? A buddy of mine said, let's just throw a party at another bar. And what became one party led to the evolution of us starting what became an events and marketing company. We would throw events every week, and certainly on big weekends like Halloween, St. Patrick's Day, we would sell tickets. We would have kind of famous musicians fly in. And these are just some examples of posters we made and events we threw. One of them was pretty cool. You could see in these pictures, there's a little banner behind there. We did, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the company Skull Candy. They make headphones, but we did their first ever live event as a company. I met them in Vegas at the Consumer Electronics Show. I said, send me a banner, send me some headphones, and we'll just kind of give it out and promote it at the event. Turns out that worked really, really well, and they ran with that idea and made live events a big part of their business. 2-3 years later, this company went public, and this is their picture in the New York Times. So that was pretty fun for me. That company was called Runaway Productions. This is the website from college. Again, I did that with a college buddy that I studied engineering with. And, just a ton of fun as a college kid. Why it was fun is we came up with a scheme to basically sell tickets at events. So we would throw parties. We'd maybe have capacity for like 1,000 people. We'd divvy up 1,000 tickets in chunks of 10. I would give 100, or in chunks of 100, I'd give 100 tickets to each of my friends. And it was almost like a pyramid scheme. They would then go out and run into college and sell tickets. And I would, at the end of the week, selling tickets, come back to my apartment and see just people in my room counting cash, like almost like a drug deal going down. And I'd pile up all this cash in my backpack and go to the local venue where we're throwing the event. We count it again. So again, like for college, this was really fun for a company. What happened was my college roommates got pretty jealous that they were doing all of the work and I was making all the money, and so they wanted to compete with me. I said, don't compete with me. I'll give you half the company. I'm going to go start another company. So ended up starting another company called the Campus Atlas. And you kind of get the gist. The idea was to have like a bit of a portal for everything and anything one would need on college. Local drink specials, professor ratings, weather. So that was the second company I built at school. We scaled it to about 8 or 9 college campuses. I ended up putting it on hold because I graduated and met another entrepreneur who was starting this advertising company called Lotame. Before that, he built a company called advertising.com, which they sold to AOL for like $500 million. So I figured this is somebody I can learn from, and I would like to go learn from him. So I joined him. We built that company from about 3 people to over 100. We weren't making any money when I joined. We scaled it to about 40 million in sales, and that was quite an experience as well. And at the time, back to this whole idea of following my passion and curiosity, I got really antsy that I wasn't building my own company again. And I was really tormented. Do I stay? Do I leave? And I ultimately decided to start another company. And for a minute, I started this horrible idea, which was basically be able to take an iPhone and drop it in this ridiculous looking portable speaker, AM, FM radio, boombox. I just thought it would be pretty funny. I was working with a manufacturing company in China, which was a whole experience in of itself. And I ended up pitching this to a few different retailers like Urban Outfitters. There was one other I forgot. And I sold this in. People were buying this idea. They wanted to buy many thousands of these units. But I didn't go through with that because the product had a whole bunch of issues. And instead, I decided to start yet a different company called Spinback. And this is about 2010 when Facebook was really becoming a big company and people started to pay attention. And we were really the first company to help online brands and retailers measure how much money they were making from Facebook. And the way we would do that is we would facilitate online the ability for people to share products on Facebook pages. And if you would buy those products, we can track that share all the way to sale. We were working very closely with the Facebook team and Mark, who's a much bigger deal now than even he was then. And again, this idea of just making it dead simple for people to share products online and measure that entire process. So we built that company for maybe a year, and then we merged that company or got acquired by another company called Buddy Media, which at the time was like the largest tech company helping brands with Facebook. This is a picture of me and my 2 co-founders, who I also met at the University of Wisconsin. This is our first office in Union Square. And then about a year later, we sold that company, Buddy Media, to Salesforce. I think at the time it was the 2nd largest tech exit in New York City history. And so for us, we were mid-20s, 25, 26. That was a really pretty cool moment. And at the time when things were really going really well, everybody, my friends, my parents thought I would stick around and keep building that business. And in that moment, I decided to quit. And I left a lot of money on the table for a 26-year-old. And the reason I did that is I was afraid. And I wasn't afraid of not having a job or going broke, because I literally just quit my job with no plan. But I was afraid of becoming complacent at a big company. I was afraid of doing a good job and getting a promotion, doing better job and getting a promotion, and then fast forwarding in life, and I'd potentially be stuck there for the next 5-10 years at a moment in my life when I felt like I could do anything. So I didn't want to be in that situation. So I quit. I left. People thought I was insane, but I felt like I had to. And after I did, I felt like I was wandering the desert a little bit. I had no real clue what I was going to do next, but I knew I couldn't stick around. My friends thought I was, they would call me your fun employed because I had a little bit of money. I traveled the world for maybe a month and a half, 2 months. But I was actually arguably the most depressed I'd ever been in my life as well, at a time when, again, everyone thought I would have been the most happy and excited. And the reason I was depressed is because I just had no clue what I wanted to do with my life at that moment. I then got a phone call from another Wisconsin person who was a professional investor, had a venture capital firm called Great Oaks Capital, and he said, hey, Dan, you're not doing anything. Why don't you come work out of our office and hang out and come invest alongside us and look at deals together? And that sounded pretty intriguing, again, considering I wasn't doing anything and I had no clue what I wanted to do next. So I started working out of their office. It was a bit of a shared office space. It did not look like that, but you get the gist. And at that point, I had my new groundbreaking idea. And it was to start another software company that really wasn't that groundbreaking. It was really just to rebuild my previous company, Spinback, just to keep going because we got cut short because we sold the company so early. And so I went and I reconnected with all my old customers. These are just a handful. Companies like Under Armour we work with, Nike, Godiva Chocolate, L'Occitane, QVC, L'Oreal, Warby Parker, Ford, and more. And I pitched them my grandiose new software idea. And one of them I was pitching was QVC. And as I was pitching them and as they were agreeing to work with me, they go, Dan, by the way, can you help us with a strategic initiative that we have? I said, sure, you're the third largest retailer in the world. You do $10 billion a year in sales. Please tell me how I can help you. And what they told me is that the world was changing and they wanted to prove that they could launch brands digitally. And in particular, beauty was the fastest growing category for them. And they're like, what do you think? Can you help? And I was like, look, I know your business pretty well. I know digital pretty well. I don't know a thing about beauty, but I know someone that does. And so I came back to the office and I knocked on the door of another person doing his own investing out of that office to get his thoughts. And the reason I asked for his thoughts is he did come out of the beauty world. He was one of the founders of Bobbi Brown Cosmetics, another big makeup company. So I said, hey, Ken, what do you think? This sounds awfully familiar to how you started Bobbi Brown, plus the really interesting digital components. He goes, that's very intriguing. Let's learn more. So we ended up getting lunch with the execs at QVC. We ended up doing a few more meetings with them. After those few more meetings, both me and Ken realized, wait a minute, we have an opportunity to launch our own kind of digitally native beauty company with the third largest retailer in the world verbatim telling us we will make this work. And then at some crappy Dunkin' Donuts in Midtown, we decided, okay, let's go do this. And so we then realized we needed another partner to be the face of our brand because neither him or I would ever be the face of a women's skincare company. So my wife knew we were looking for somebody, and she found a Bethany Frankel clip of who became my partner, Dr. Raj, and she sends me the clip, and I watch it and think she's perfect. I have to work with her. So I send her a cold email. This is the cold email, basically saying, "Hi, I'm Dan. Here's a little bit about me. I'm working on a new brand and product with the co-founder Bobbi Brown, and is this interesting? Let's meet." Email became phone call became in-person meeting, and we ended up offering her a role to be our co-founder and started a company called Tula Skincare. Fast forward, we launch, we go on QVC, we do some TV appearances, and by we I mean she goes on television. We sell out literally all of the first TV appearances we went on. And the business was doing so good that a private equity firm came knocking. That firm is called L. Catterton. The L stands for LVMH. It's the investment arm of Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy, who own brands like Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy, Dom Perignon, Chanel. I don't know if they own Dior, and more iconic brands. So we raised money from them. added fuel to the fire, kept building the business. This is my partner who I got on the cover of Entrepreneur Magazine, in the top right. I got a nice little byline in the first paragraph. She got the cover. It's fine. As Rabbi mentioned, I don't need the fanfare. And then we ended up rolling out into Ulta and Sephora. So if you go into any Ulta or Sephora today, you'll see Tula products there. And at the time, it was the fastest growing beauty company in the world. Fast forward a little bit more. These are just a few cool moments for me. We had a bunch of celebrities and influencer types get involved with the brand. Mandy Moore is on the left. I share this one only because my mom loved Mandy Moore. So that's really just a shout out to mom. And then on the right, we ended up taking a full page ad in the New York Times, which was also pretty cool because that wasn't a box I thought I would check ever. And fast forward, we built the brand to about 150 million in sales and then ended up selling it to Procter Gamble, which was also a really cool moment. What's crazy about this story is twice the company was going through an M&A process to get acquired and almost blew up, which you can imagine being very, very stressful, thinking that you're about to sell a company that could be life-changing and then it maybe not happening twice. So that was really kind of a very, very, very big lesson in perseverance, which I think is a key attribute of, having character. That was literally the most stressful moment of my life professionally, maybe ever. But it gets worse, and you'll hear why in a minute. As I was building Tula, I was in a, quote, product development meeting with a bunch of women and these lab samples on the table, my partner Ken, and we're kind of like figuring out if we wanted citrus or lavender in the products. And in that moment, I'm thinking, what am I doing in this room and with my life? Despite the fact that the business was doing very, very well. And I realized that I needed to get back to what I was passionate about, again, despite the fact the company was doing well, and I wanted to get back to technology. So I told my then chief operating officer, Julia, I'm like, look, please do a good job. If you do a good job, I'm going to give you mine, I'm going to fire myself, and I'm going to go start a software company again. Because I still believe then the world revolves around technology. That felt like the fun place, an exciting place to be. And so that's exactly what I did. I started another company called Troops. This is a picture of one of our offices in, I think it was like 30th and Park, which is a really fun office. If you had ever been there, on one hand, you'd have a bunch of beauty people with Tula, and on the other hand, you'd have a bunch of engineering nerds with Troops. You could imagine Fashion Week, the beauty company would throw parties, and all the engineers would just hang out and crash the Fashion Week party, which made for hilarious commentary the next morning. But what was that company? It was a venture-backed software company, and the gist was we wanted to make crappy, mission-critical enterprise software easy and fun to use. And the way we thought about that was, if you'd ever used one of these systems of record like Salesforce, it's a bunch of fields, forms, buttons, and boxes. And the question we were asking is, what if you could interact with all of your mission-critical data much in the same way you text a friend or family? What if it felt like you had this artificially intelligent assistant? So that was the premise. We ended up building a product that connected with a lot of these enterprise systems with these modern interfaces like Slack or Microsoft Teams. I don't know if anyone here has used either of those, but we really modernized enterprise software. We raised a bunch of money. These are a bunch of our investors. For example, to call it out, First Round Capital, they were our first institutional investor. They're also the first check into companies like Uber or Roblox, Minecraft, other iconic tech companies. Slack was one of our investors. We were their first ever big investment that they had made. Sousa Ventures was the first check and incubated Robinhood. I don't know if anyone uses that app, but we just had a really great group of iconic who's who in the tech world. We would go to conferences. This is our marketing stunt. We ended up building or getting a giant 10-foot robot that would come with us at all of the events we would do, which is pretty hilarious. Fast forward, Slack ended up going public, And because we were so close with them, they invited us to go to the New York Stock Exchange when they went public. So we got to ring the bell with them, which is a really cool moment. Fast forward a little bit more, even after they went public, Salesforce acquired Slack for close to $30 billion. It was the largest acquisition Salesforce had ever done. And the reason that deal happened is to kind of pursue the vision that we had been building at Troops. And maybe 6 months after that acquisition happened, they came knocking on our door and said, we want to buy you guys too and help make this acquisition a reality, given the work we were doing. So Tula was sold in February, and 6 months later, Troops was sold. And similarly, the Troops acquisition almost blew up twice. So at the same time, both of these deals were happening, both were blowing up. Again, the most stressful moment in my life, but ultimately we got the deal done. Salesforce bought Troops. Both deals are happening at the same time. And I can't overstate this characteristic of character, which is shit's hard, like in life, at work, in your personal life, and perseverance is just so key. Whenever I hire anybody, this is one of the traits I'm also looking for. In fact, all of them, but certainly this one. And I'm still going, building more companies. So as I was exiting both of those companies, I could not help myself, and so I incubated and started another back in the beauty space. So I started a company called Dibs Beauty. You're smiling, no Dibs? Oh. Basically, at Tula, we worked with like 6,000 beauty influencers, so I got to see who worked and who didn't. And I called the very best performer for us. Her name is Courtney Shields. And I said, Courtney, what are you up to? She said, I'm working on a jewelry line. So that's a pretty horrible business. Have you thought about beauty? And she said, I have, but I don't know anything about beauty. And I said, say no more, let's start a company together. So Dibs was born. It's now available online. We're in ULTA. We're going to be rolling out into, I think, all ULTA doors later next year. And it's also one of the fastest growing beauty companies in the world right now. That investment partner, El Catterton, also invested in this company as well. So this was some press around that investment. And like both rabbis mentioned, I decided to start even more companies. So most recently, about a month ago, I launched yet another beauty company. Who here knows the show Riverdale? So have you seen it? I haven't even seen it. I probably should do that. The main actress in the show, Lily Reinhart, I got connected with, and she was really passionate about health and wellness, and in particular acne. She had suffered from acne her whole life, suffered from severe depression, body dysmorphia, and when I first met her, I didn't know what Riverdale was, I didn't know who Lily was, but as I dug in, I got very intrigued. And again, about a month ago, we launched a new company called Personal Day, which is another skincare company focused a little bit more on acne. But this is an article from our kind of coming out party. This is a picture from our launch event in Los Angeles. So there's me, Lily, my partner Ken from the other companies I mentioned, and Sheila, who's one of my partners and CEO of Personal Day. And now, how am I spending my time? I'm building more companies. So I'm working on 3 more now. One's in the cannabis space, 2 are in the food space. One's with a very big YouTuber. Another is with a very big, let's call him an influencer. And I continue to invest. So I do a bunch of angel investing in people like me that are starting companies. And last but not least, but most importantly, on this topic of character and the traits that I think are most important, this is also maybe one of the most important ones. And I talk about this idea of perspective probably with every founder I work with ever, because in life, things get hard. And the way that I've navigated how to deal with times and moments when they are hard is to have perspective. So as I mentioned earlier, I've been volunteering as a member of National Ski Patrol. And, there have been days when I would be working on the hill and you would see people that would get up to go skiing in in the morning, and their plans would be to get lunch and then ski a little bit more, and then maybe do après ski and get some beers. And some of those people just don't make it through the day. And I've seen that. And when you see that up close, it gives you perspective that all the things I just mentioned at work, like, it doesn't matter. And that perspective keeps you grounded on what's really important in life. You know, yet another example that Rabbi Label was alluding to, this is a picture of me and my brother and one of my cousins and my grandfather, who's no longer with us, but he was a Holocaust survivor. And, you know, we're in Chabad, but when you think about the perspective of 6 million Jews were murdered compared to the little infinitesimally small things that you deal with day to day or at work, it's irrelevant. It doesn't even matter or come close to the more severe things that people are going through in life or have gone through. And that's been especially true, and maybe we can all empathize with the past year with what's going on in Israel. Like, again, I have friends that will send me, founder friends that I've invested in their companies, and I'll get investor updates, and it starts with, "Hi from Gaza." Like, they're literally fighting the war in Gaza, sending investor updates to their investors on their tech companies. That is crazy perspective to have while we're working from home out of the comforts and safety of our houses in New Jersey. So in any event, as I think about the topic of character, these are the 4 themes for me that I think are most critical, that I think about all the time when I'm hiring, when I'm interviewing, when I'm choosing who my business partners are, when I'm choosing who my personal friends are. And I think if you internalize these things for yourselves, it will get you pretty far in life. To me, these things do embody what we can call leadership. And, you know, a great leader has great character. And so we'll end there with any questions that anyone may have.